Okay guys, it's Elsa time. Right, it's the blue dress, of course. Whichever else one would it be? I've seen 100 different ways of people making this costume, but what you'll see in this video is how I have personally chose to make it. So I hope you like. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the pattern. Now, the pattern I'm using is from my collection. It's called Butterwick B4131. I'm using this pattern to make the skirt. Now there are two different skirts on this one. There's a fuller skirt and a slim skirt. I'm going to go for the slimline skirt, though it only has a small train on the back of it. So I've done this quick mock-up here to get the general idea of how it looked. At the moment it's a little bit tight on my hips, although I'm just showing you on our dummy for video purposes right now. So I might have to bring the hips out a little bit because it's just a wee bit tight for me. Sort of getting the idea where the split in the skirt is going to go. And as you can see from the back here, there's this really tiny looking train. Although this is sort of more or less the length I sort of hope to end up with, I'm going to add a bit more fullness on the seams, so my skirt will sort of have a bit more in it and I can bring this out a little bit more. So that's what I'll do next. Okay, they're just two basic pattern pieces for the main skirt, plus a waistband. First of all, we'll just take the front section. I've extended it outwards here where this is where it was a bit tight on my hips, so I've just brought it out a bit there, and then I wanted a bit more room in my skirt, so as well as making it a bit more room for my hips, I've also brought the skirt out for a bit more flare and a bit more movement. So that's been brought out that way. And this piece I'm actually going to bring out from here a little bit more as well at the back. Now here I have my actual skirt with the fabric that I'm going to be using, and just quickly showing you guys what I've done with the back piece. I've just filled it out a little bit more towards the back, like so. And of course, as described earlier, add more on this seam here, brought that out a bit more. Okay, so these are now my new Elsa skirt pieces. On the left we have the front, which is cut on the fold, and then on the right we have the back piece, which I flared out a bit more and curved round at the bottom. Okay, onto my fabric now. Now I think I've had the lucky find of the century. I was actually researching Anna at the time I found this fabric. I was in Abercam Fabrics at Mostyn in North Wales, England, and I just happened to spot this aqua turquoisey glossy coloured stuff on a roll while I was there, and I just had to buy it because I don't think I'll ever find it again. I don't know if the colour's going to turn out as well as I see it in front of me now on the screen, but you see it has a lovely sort of icy shimmer to it, and it also has like these little cracks, these creases, so it almost looks like ice cracking in a way. I think so. Anyway, It's quite lightweight, very similar to a polyester satin, and it also has a nice sort of slinky ripple to it, so you have to excuse our bird. He always likes to chat when I chat. So anyway, I couldn't resist because it's just absolutely perfect, and the colour was nearly absolutely dead on. And it also has like this silvery, again I don't know if it's showing it very well on the screen, a silvery sort of a shimmer going down one way of the fabric. It also has a sheen the other way, but if I'd have cut it the width the other way, there wouldn't have been enough to make the skirt long enough at the back. So there we go, that's where I bought that from. Now this is actually my front panel I have here, which was cut on the fold of the fabric, and in the pattern piece it has darts, which you can see here. Now darts are just there for a purpose, just to add a little bit of shaping as you go around, and because you're quite curvy at the waist, it's practically impossible to put a straight line around the waist. You need to either gather it or put it on a yoke waistband, but as this has a straight waistband, that is the reason it's got darts there, and 2 darts on the back as well, which I'll go into in a moment how to do those. When you get patterns that include darts, you will often see something that looks like this. You'll see little tiny circles for doing what they call tailor's tacks, and a line going like that. And then possibly up here it will come to a point on your pattern piece. You'll notice that this is the top edge of the front section of the skirt. Now you have to imagine I've put it on a fold of fabric, but I'm just using one layer of fabric now just to simplify it. But you would actually fold your fabric in half to do the front panel of the skirt, and then you would go through 2 layers when you do these tailor's tacks. Okay, first of all, thread up a needle and double the thread to roughly the same length. Then go to where your hole is, go in a little bit and then up, and then pull so you have a bit of a tail left. Then you'll want to do that again. Go in.
You're also going through all the layers of fabric at the same time.
So you have a little loop thing there. Then cut a little tail. There we go. These will just leave marks for where you have to fold to do your dart. Now what you would do is making sure all your pins are at your pattern piece, very important. You're going to pull very carefully through the hole your pieces of thread. There we go, and that leaves your marks. Now what you would do is, although I forgot to cut out that point there that I showed you earlier, is you're matching that mark to that mark and that mark to that mark as close as you can get it. And just put a pin. Then the same again for these 2. They should more or less line up once you've got the first one in place, if you've done it right. Then that's the last point there with the last single dot. And then what you would do is you would sew, doing a forwards and backwards anchoring stitch to start with. you would sew right to the end, but don't sew backwards and forwards at the end. You would just run your stitches right off the fabric, and you would leave some tails, which I'll show you on my skirt in a moment. Okay, you can just see here the one dart I've done. I've sewn all the way down there, and when you run off your fabric you should be left with two tails. You tie two little knots, one in one direction and one in the other direction, to tie it off, so that leaves less bulk when you turn it the right way out. You shouldn't have any bulk there at the corner. Okay, I've now gone and sewn the side seams on my skirt. The back seam over here, I did a trial fit earlier because I'm planning on putting a zip into the back opening. Mum marked on me whereabouts the zip should finish and how long we think the zip should be, which we worked out about 8 inches on me, but it might be different on you. We took the 8 inches and we've added a little bit more. So I've started sewing the seam down the back from about 14 inches from the top, because it's yet to have a waistband. So basically just sewn it all the way to the bottom. Next we're going to go into the lining. Now, after watching the film, I expect many of you noticed the inside of a skirt is like a bluey colour. So I've been going through various frames, freezing and copying and pasting one by one. I don't think it's probably shown very well up on the camcorder, but the best scene is at the end when she's stamping her foot on the floor. I'm not really sure that's showing it, but you get the idea. So I decided to go for this mid-blue lining. It's just a polyester basic liner you can get in most shops. It's nothing special. Again, I've constructed it the same way I did my skirt, put my darts in, sewn the back about 14 inches down. So basically I've constructed it exactly the same way as my outer skirt. Okay, just showing here the back view very quickly. I now have outer skirt and liner fabric all sewn up, and the back seam only sewn 3/4 of the way down. Okay, next I've got to start attaching my line to the skirt. So what I've done is I've got the main skirt here, which is facing outwards, and then I've attached the blue liner facing the opposite, so you've got a seam to a seam basically, and all your seams should be facing outwards on the liner and the other skirt. And I've just pinned it in place all the way around the top. A good tip is to start pinning from the centre front backwards, making sure all your darts and seams match up as best as possible on both layers. And that's basically all we've done at the moment, and I've just put some pins in down the side there to hold it, and the rest of the inside is from here is loose from the liner.
Okay, now that you're wearing the skirt inside out, down at the bottom here we want to sew all the way around the bottom of the hem, and starting from the middle of your fabric, put a marker, and also one on your lining so that you can line them up perfectly centre front. Then working your way backwards from the front, as Tracy does a twirl, you're then going to pin them together. Make sure that your seams are flat when you come to them, all the way around to the back, and try and keep the distance exactly the same, like so. And that will tidy up the bottom. Now if Tracy will just turn to the front, now what we've got to do is work out where the split is going to be in the skirt. Now you have to remember that you are wearing the skirt inside out, so everything is reversed. So when you come to work out where your slit is going to be, you've got to work on the opposite leg. In this case it will be Tracy's left leg. So when the whole skirt is turned the right way out, the slit will be in front of the right leg. Okay, now that we've got the skirt on inside out, we want to find out where the knee is going to come through the split. And the best way to work that out is for Tracy to do a few steps and then just poke her knee forward as if she's walking. And where you'll see her knee just hitting the fabric, you want to put the split about 2 inches above the knee. And then that's where you will mark your straight line straight down to your hem. Okay, I've now taken a ruler, and where my pins were, I've now drawn a more accurate straight line with some tailor's chalk going all the way down to the bottom. And just so that the fabric doesn't move when you're sewing it, put some temporary pins in either side and keep those in until you've sewn your split. What you're going to be doing is sewing along the bottom of the skirt, and then when you come to your tailor's chalk mark, just on one side of it, you're going to sew all the way up to the top. Then when you get to the top end of your mark, you're going to turn the fabric 90 degrees and just do 2 stitches, and then you're going to sew all the way down the other side of the tailor's chalk, and then continue going all the way around your skirt. Okay, now that it's been sewn and you've gone up and down both sides of your chalk line, you've then got to cut between the sewing up to the end. And while we're at it, we also overlook the edge and cut off all of that straggly stuff. If you don't have an overlocker, then you can always just zigzag it or use pinking shears just to neaten it up a bit. Now we're going to turn the whole skirt the right way out.
Next thing we've done before we've gone onto the waistband is we've just given the edges a good press with the iron all the way around the whole of the skirt.
Right, we're now going to put the zip in. Now it's going to be a little bit awkward because the way we want to put the zip into this skirt means that the lining and the fabric have to be 2 separate skirts. If I just show you what I mean, how you should put a zip into a lined skirt, then you'll hopefully understand that we can't do this method. I'm going to pretend that this is our skirt and we've cut a waistband for it, and then you would attach the waistband along the top of the skirt like that, and you would sew it along. So when you turn it the right way out, it would look like that. And then what you would do is you would get your lining material, and then you would line that up with the top of your waistband like so, and then you would sew your lining to the top of your waistband. So when the whole thing is the right way, you would have your lining attached to the. Then what you would do is you would insert your zip up as far as the middle of the waistband and sew it to one side of the skirt. But unfortunately, because our skirt is actually sewn all the way around the bottom, we can't do this method, so we're going to have to do something slightly different. Starting at the edge of the skirt, we're going to attach the waistband around the top, and I've connected the skirt and the liner together, so do it all in one operation.
Now I've sewn the waistband onto the edge, I'm putting the invisible zip in. You can use an ordinary zip, but I prefer an invisible one so it looks tidier. Okay, now the zip's been put in, we're putting some stiffener into the waistband, and we're doing this by inserting it where you can see my fingers, like so, and as we go we're putting a pin in place to hold it.
Okay, with that pinned in place, go to one end or the other and turn your seam so that you just got your zip on the outside. Then you're going to be folding your waistband in half, like so. I'll just put a pin there for now. Then you're going to be turning under a seam, and you're going to be hand sewing the two fabrics together, your waistband and a little bit of your lining, all the way across. This is Elsa's skirt now, which is complete. And this is just showing the lining inside the skirt.